Very good afternoon. Thanks for tuning in to The Big Story. I'm Afrida Rahman Ali. First up, some breaking news coming in. Congress has once again questioned BJP's role behind Sasikala's sudden move to quit politics. Congress says Sasikala is doing what BJP wants her to do. She has been pressurized to take this big decision, according to the Congress party. So this is a reaction coming from the Congress now on Sasikala's decision to step aside from politics ahead of the Tamil Nadu state elections.
I think, with so many corruption cases and all that, she'll be taking instructions from Delhi. I think whatever BJP wants her to do, she will have to do. So I think it is just posturing, because the way she came out of the jail, that wasn't her mood. So this sudden decision is what? It's not her wish, I think. She's been pressurized to say all these things.
After Congress, now CPIM raises questions about the role of BJP in VK Sasikala's sudden decision to step away. Party General Secretary Sitaram Yechuri says if BJP is welcoming this decision, then obviously they had a role to play in it. Let's listen in.
Naturally, BJP will welcome it. Naturally, BJP would welcome it. And how much has the BJP role in that, it's up to you to find out in the decision that Madam Sasikala has taken.
Well, so clearly a day after Sasikala pronounced her retirement from political life, a full-fledged political row is exploding right now, with reactions coming in thick and fast over it from the Congress, from the DMK, and you just heard the CPIM leader as well. The BJP, yes indeed, has welcomed this decision, stating that it will fulfill Jayalalitha's dream of a unified AIADMK. So the BJP is looking to unite the two factions of AIADMK and, with this decision taken by Sasikala. Meanwhile, opposition CPIM alleges BJP's role behind it and says that they have actually orchestrated it. Sasikala's nephew and AIADMK leader TTV Dhinakaran has said that Sasikala wanted to unite the party, and therefore this is her sacrifice, that if her stepping down ensures a merger, so be it. Now, in a dramatic development yesterday, Sasikala made this announcement saying that she was never power hungry and she wants a united AIADMK to fight the common enemy of the DMK. And she also made it clear that whether it was during the time that Jayalalithaa was alive or now for that matter, she was never hankering for power or position. This is what she said in the subtext after the announcement was made. Let's listen in to BJP's Siti Ravi on Sasikala's exit from politics.
Now Sasikala, what she has took a decision that will fulfill Amma dreams. What is Amma dreams? United AIADMK, Amma dreams. Dhinakaran also, I hope, they also fulfill Amma dreams.
I'm going to now introduce the panel this afternoon. Joining me is Madhavan Narayan, senior journalist. On the show today is also S Sudhir, political analyst. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. I have quite a few important questions for the two of you, but I want to bring in my reporter first to give us a sense of what's happening right now in terms of bringing us up to speed with the developments, so I can then pose my questions to our guests accordingly. Mugilan, bring us up to speed with the latest developments. Now, not everyone is looking at this as an exit from politics. So what exactly did Sasikala say when she made this announcement? Because the subtext is also important. Many are saying that this is only a temporary posturing.
Definitely, the two-page statement issued by Sasikala is very cleverly worded, because she categorically says that she's going to step away from politics. So definitely we can expect Sasikala to make a comeback in the later stages, that is after the election, because Sasikala now has come to a point that she doesn't want to be a person who have to be blamed for the debacle of AIADMK if it is losing in the upcoming assembly elections. And that is why now Sasikala is also distancing herself from the AIADMK, and she also calling for a unity among the AIADMK cadres and asking them work towards the victory of AIADMK. So now Sasikala very clearly distancing herself, trying to distance herself from the party and say let the party perform and let them win. And this is what Sasikala is trying to convey also. And more importantly, in the two-page statement, we can in several instances we can see Sasikala explaining about her association with Jayalalithaa. She says that she is Jayalalitha's sister who works to fulfill the dreams of Jayalalitha's and will. So Sasikala trying to make an emotional connect, and she also trying to project her decision as a sacrifice for the party what she is making. So we have to wait and watch how the AIADMK
Absolutely, and that's the point I want to raise with our guests, Mugilan. Thanks for joining us. I want to go across to S Sudhir first. And Mr. Sudhir, I was just reading your article, and you are one of those who believe that this is not a final word, or it's not a decision to exit politics. Rather, it is some sort of a temporary measure. Do you also believe, therefore, that this is a tactical move? And you know, like Mugilan was saying, it's playing the emotional card. Does something like this work with the Tamil people?
Oh, yes. I mean, Mugilan was right when he referred to the fact that the entire text of the letter basically focuses on Sasikala's friendship with Jayalalithaa, referring to her both as Amma and also as Akka in her own relationship with Jayalalithaa. So that's pretty much the message that she wants to send to the cadre. This is a message that she's communicating to the cadre, that here I am stepping away from the entire political circus. I'm not hankering after power. Just the way the entire AIADMK top brass has tried to label her and project her as in the last 4 years, that she's willing to walk away. And in that sense, it's a very astute and tactical move right at this point in time. The Tamil phrase which has been used is Odangi Irundu, basically to say, I'm stepping aside. It is not really an exit in that sense of the word.
Okay, that's an important observation, Mr. Sudhir. Do you agree with that, Mr. Narayanan? Because, you know, there are a couple of inherent contradictions that I see here. One is that while Sasikala is projecting it as a sacrifice to make sure that the cadre is united, there's also this point of view that actually she is smelling imminent defeat for AIADMK, and therefore she has conveniently recused herself so that she doesn't have to, you know, take any responsibility for it, and that might help her prospects later.
Afrida, I would mildly disagree with you on that. You know, the real question is, of course, does she have a choice? Okay, let's go back a few days ago when she stormed into Chennai after a 24-hour journey from Bangalore after a corruption charge that put her in jail. So is this strategic enough to have been pre-planned throughout, or has this been done under compulsion over the past 3 days is the big question we have to answer. Because everybody seems to understand that last night's letter, which Sudhir explained so well, it is not about quitting as many channels have loosely translated. It is about stepping aside. Please see the nuance. So the other thing is she's talking about defeating BJP and bringing back Jayalalitha's role. So it is not political sannyas. That part is also decided. What is not decided is whether she did this recently, as recent as in the past couple of days or 3 days, under BJP pressure, and did she have any other plan that failed? Let's look at the other plan scenario, which is that if she had not got any rebellion from within the AIADMK, which is the ruling OPS-EPS-led combined, she would have been left completely alone anyway, and that's looked like the scenario, because EPS and OPS, apart from playing some very good brinkmanship with Narendra Modi in keeping Jayalalithaa out, or with Amit Shah, if you will, they had actually created, in distributing the goodies, making promises, including farm loan waivers and all sorts of freebies for people. So they were on a strong wicket from a position of strength. And here is Sasikala stepping out of jail, showing tremendous goodwill and money power perhaps in her procession, but otherwise with no card left to play. So this is a bit of an options choice for her. The only thing she could have expected was a rebellion that did not happen, which means the best case scenario for her is to wait for the elections. Now, I see yesterday's decision by Sasikala as a signal to the party cadres saying, you go ahead and fight the election with EPS and OPS so that the DMK is out of power, or we try to contain the DMK. And my doors are open for you once the elections are over, and we can start from square one all over again. And let's hope for the best. And that is also suiting the BJP, because personally, I think BJP would have been embarrassed by the fact, look, BJP came to power on an anti-corruption plan over the 2G scam involving DMK of Tamil Nadu. Now, how can they possibly openly ally with Sasikala, who's actually gone to jail on a corruption charge? Right?
Absolutely. So, Mrs. Sudhir, again, very important, like, this is giving me a fresh perspective again to ask you that, do you think there is a possibility that Sasikala and the BJP might have had some backdoor talks to work this out? That you step aside for now, we'll take care of this later, because there's a strong realization that only a united AIADMK can defeat DMK for that matter. And at the current scenario, it's simply a losing battle.
Well, having covered Tamil Nadu for the last 3 decades or so, one thing can be sure, that nothing happens in Tamil Nadu politics without a scriptwriter. So there would definitely be a scriptwriter, more so in light of the fact that on the 9th of February, Sasikala actually vowed to be in active politics and fight it out. So what really transpired between the 9th of February and the 3rd of March, we do not know. There could well be a scriptwriter. Whether that scriptwriter is a BJP, one can't speculate right now at this point in time, except for the fact that there are still some pending cases against Sasikala. So whether any kind of deal was worked out, we can't really speculate on that right now. But the important larger point is that, see, the major charge against TTV Dhinakaran was that he was kind of leading to the defeat of AIADMK candidates in the previous elections, for instance, in the 2019 election, by eating into the AIADMK vote. Whereas the AIADMK government led by Edappadi Palaniswamy was projecting itself as Amma's government. Sasikala obviously does not want to have the same charge leveled against her. So she's saying, let me step aside and let's defeat the DMK. So in that sense, she's making all the right noises. She's being politically correct in that sense, because even the AIADMK cadre would want to hear that we want to defeat the DMK led by MK Stalin. Should that not happen, should the AIADMK come a cropper like in the 2019 Lok Sabha elections, that would be the appropriate time for Sasikala to step in and say, here I come as the savior for all you cadre, depending on what you want now. And at that time, both OPS and EPS may not really have much of an option after the 2021 May elections.
Absolutely. So interesting, that you say this, because that would mean that she's now taking this moral high ground for a reason. And there is a thought behind it, which you have explained very well. I'll come back to you. We're talking about the reactions now that we are getting from different political quarters. And it's interesting to see how the DMK has reacted, with TKS Ellen Govind saying that Sasikala was never a factor. She was never in the game to begin with. She was never in politics. And therefore, whether she exits or not, or steps aside or not, is immaterial. Let's listen in.
Sasikala was never in politics. He had not contested an MLA election or an MP election. He was not holding any position in the earlier period. Sasikala is not a matter. It is the concern of the ADMK and not the DMK. We are worried about the ADMK, which is in power now, the BJP, which is against the Tamils. So our target is the ADMK and BJP.
All right, Mr. Narayanan, is the DMK upset about this? That, where they were hoping that the two sides, the two factions should remain divided, and that was helping their cause. By any chance, if the reverse happens and if the cadre actually unites, is there a chance that would dent DMK's prospects?
Yeah, well, actually, Sasikala is certainly a matter of concern for DMK if the party unites, AIADMK unites. But having said that, I think the DMK leader who just saw was also correct in his own way. Sasikala was even technically taken out of the party by Jayalalithaa through a public statement when she was alive. She had actually issued a statement saying Jayalalithaa is Sasikala is a personal relationship and not a part of the ADMK in that sense. And also, let us remember that Sasikala is not an orator. She's not even an ideologue. She's more of a backroom player at best. And given the corruption against her and the might of money that she's shown, it is essentially about resources and backroom organization that she brings to the not a visible leader. But given that those things matter a lot in politics, especially in Tamil Nadu, she would have definitely been a force to reckon with. But it doesn't really matter, as the RK Nagar elections showed, the by assembly elections which Dhinakaran managed showed, the Sasikala group is capable of doing a lot of nuisance and mischief with the AIADMK or electoral outcomes, with their incredible power to organize and raise resources. And therefore, that is certainly a factor for DMK, because at least now they cannot bet on a divided, spoiled sport. So certainly in backroom conversations, DMK be worried, but it's also equally true that DMK is betting on an anti-incumbency wave and an anti-BJP sentiment in the Dravida politics to take it home. And we'll have to see, because the Kamal Hassan factor is there with the rise of urbanization in Tamil Nadu, which I have been keenly observing, because I look at social factors alongside political ones. And so if the rising urbanization of Tamil Nadu takes the sheen of some of the old-fashioned Dravida politics, then we could see a third force in Tamil Nadu. Maybe that's for my colleague Sudhir to talk about.
Okay, that in fact leads me to, yes. I think we should ask Sudhir this about, where does this leave Dhinakaran? Because when we are talking about a merger, it would obviously also mean, raise questions of whether TTV Dhinakaran will come back into the fold, and also whether this is overstated, the Sasikala factor, and it's not such a big factor anyway. Where do you stand on both these things?
Well, Sasikala factor is overstated to the limited extent that she was never in active politics. She was always the force behind Jayalalithaa, and because Jayalalithaa was in power, or the AIADMK chief, she basically drew her power from being Jayalalitha's confidant. But Dhinakaran has to really make his next move, because he is interested in coming back to the AIADMK to do a Ghar Wapsi. But of course, the EPS faction is not willing. OPS, surprisingly, is actually more amenable to the idea that he's okay with the idea of nephew and even aunt, for that matter, actually making a comeback into the party, because he will see this as a consolidation of the Tevar community vote bank in the entire politics of the Tevar community, to which OPS and Sasikala belong, versus the Gounder community within the AIADMK, to which Chief Minister Edappadi Palaniswamy belong. So there is also a caste and community angle, which is actually very interestingly playing out within the ruling party in Tamil Nadu. But yes, even if Dhinakaran comes back, it's not necessary that 2 plus 2 will actually add up to 4 in Tamil Nadu politics. It could become 6, it could become 1. So we'll have to wait and see as to how the people of Tamil Nadu, remember, there was a sizable Jayalalithaa vote bank itself in Tamil Nadu, which helped them in the 2016 assembly election. Now, would that vote actually wither away, or would that vote go to someone else? We do not know. So none of these players, whether it's EPS, OPS, or Dhinakaran for that matter, have really blossomed in a non-Jayalalithaa political space, and how they actually fare. So in that sense, 2021 will be the first big test for them, because 2019, none of them really could set the Kaveri on fire.
Right, very well put. T.S. Sudhir and Madhavan Narayanan, thank you so much for joining us and enlightening us with the important aspects of this election and the various factors that could be at play. There are inherent contradictions, and of course, at this moment, we will only have to wait and watch how things pan out. Every day is throwing up interesting surprises. Thanks for joining us.